The man who built a hotel for murder. On a fog-heavy morning in Chicago, a little girl stood at the edge of a vacant lot and stared at the ruins of a building that should not have existed. The walls were blackened. The windows were empty eyes. Twisted iron jutted from the ground like bones. She would later tell police that the place felt wrong, as if the ground remembered screams. What she didn't know was that beneath her feet lay the remains of one of the most horrifying crime scenes in American history. This was where people checked in and never checked out. In 1886, Chicago was booming. The city was rebuilding itself after the Great Fire. An opportunity attracted ambitious men from every corner of the country. Among them was a soft-spoken, well-dressed pharmacist named Herman Webster Mudgett. He introduced himself simply as Dr. H. Holmes. He had kind eyes, a polite smile, and a talent for making people trust him instantly. Behind that smile was one of the most calculated killers America has ever produced. Holmes bought a small drugstore in the Englewood neighborhood. Across the street, he began construction on a 3-story building. He told locals it would be a hotel, perfect for the upcoming 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, a World's Fair expected to draw millions of visitors. But the building had no blueprint. Holmes fired construction crews constantly, hiring new ones before the old could understand what they were building. No worker ever saw the full design, because no one was meant to. Inside, the structure became a maze. Hallways led nowhere. Doors opened into brick walls. Staircases stopped at ceilings. Rooms were sealed from the outside. Some rooms were soundproofed, others were airtight. Several had gas lines running directly inside. Holmes called it a hotel. History would call it the murder castle. Young women were his favorite targets. Most were alone. Many had come to Chicago looking for work or adventure. Holmes offered both: jobs at his pharmacy, rooms at his hotel, promises of romance and marriage. They trusted him. They vanished. One woman, Julia Connor, had worked at the drugstore and begun an affair with Holmes. When she became pregnant, Holmes promised to arrange a safe abortion. She entered the hotel one evening. She was never seen again. Holmes later claimed she died during the procedure. What he didn't say was what he did next. Beneath the building was a basement fitted with vats of acid, quicklime, and a custom-built furnace. Holmes stripped bodies of flesh. He cleaned skeletons meticulously. Then he sold them to medical schools. He made money from murder twice, and he kept trophies, jewelry, clothing, sometimes locks of hair. To Holmes, people were inventory. During the 1893 World's Fair, the hotel was full. Guests disappeared quietly. Police barely noticed. People went missing all the time in a city of millions. But inside the building, death was constant. Some victims were locked into airtight rooms and left to suffocate. Others were poisoned with gas, while Holmes watched through peepholes. Some were dropped down chutes into the basement, alive. Witnesses later testified that screams echoed through the walls at night. But the building was busy, and no one asked questions. Holmes was not impulsive. He was precise. He took out life insurance policies on people he controlled. He convinced accomplices to help him commit fraud and murder, then killed them too. One of them was Benjamin Peitzel, a carpenter with a wife and children. Holmes convinced Peitzel to fake his own death for insurance money. Instead, Holmes killed him. Then he murdered 3 of Peitzel's children, suffocating them one by one in different cities, while their mother searched desperately for them. Their bodies were found buried in cellars and crawl spaces. The youngest was 6. Holmes might have continued forever if not for greed. He attempted to scam an insurance company, one time too many. Investigators began digging into his past and found something impossible to ignore. Names changed, cities changed, but death followed him everywhere. Police arrested Holmes in 1894. What they uncovered next stunned the nation. When authorities searched the hotel, hardened detectives vomited at the sight. Rooms designed solely to kill, bloodstains soaked into floors, burned bone fragments in the furnace, human remains dissolved in acid vats. The press called it the most evil building ever constructed. Newspapers estimated Holmes killed over 200 people. Holmes himself confessed to 27 murders, then changed his story repeatedly, smiling as he described the deaths. He showed no remorse, only fascination. At trial, Holmes watched the courtroom like an audience. He corrected prosecutors. He mocked witnesses. He detailed murders with calm precision. Psychiatrists later described him as a perfect psychopath, charming, intelligent, and utterly without empathy. In 1896, Holmes was sentenced to death. Before his execution, he made one final request. He asked to be buried 10 feet deep, encased in concrete, claiming he feared grave robbers would dissect his body as he had done to others. The state agreed. On May 7, 1896, H. Holmes was hanged. He died smiling. The murder castle burned down shortly after. But the story didn't end. Years later, workers claimed to hear voices near the site. Bones were still being found decades afterward. Even in the 21st century, archaeologists uncovered human remains linked to the building. No one knows the true number of victims. Some historians believe Holmes killed far more than he admitted, because monsters like him rarely confess to everything. America remembers many killers, but H. Holmes was different. He didn't just kill. He designed death. He engineered it into walls, floors, doors, and ceilings. And long after the building disappeared, the idea remained that evil doesn't always look violent. Sometimes it looks polite. Sometimes it smiles. And sometimes it asks you to check in.